the whole thing. It's I think what makes us go and be successful as a group is that I really believe we're a family in there, and it's not about me. And it's everybody has a role. It goes from I see the trainers back here, like we're all in this together, and that's the little, for me, the little thing that made us successful. We have great players and we have great commitment, and that's a big deal. But it's that other stuff. So it certainly helps with me knowing that we got everything covered from top to bottom in there, and we've got the best guys doing their jobs, and it makes my job really easy, to be honest.
Yeah, Rod, how do you sort of handle, you've got a successful system that's worked for multiple years and regular season success and winning at least a playoff series every year, but sort of maybe is there a tweak that you want to make or something that you guys need to evaluate on how to take another step? Like, how do you evaluate that part of it?
Well, I think it's definitely block out the noise, because there's a lot of stuff being said. And you see it, you hear it, you try not to. That is, I think, just totally inaccurate, on our perception of our group. I believe in this group. I believe in the way we do things. I just look at, even this year, we had a great year. Great year. We get to play the best team in the league, and we're going toe-to-toe with them. And, yeah, can we do things better? Of course. Within that series, there are things that we didn't play, or we could talk about the power play. Our power play was great all year. It went for 4 games. It stunk. And we didn't, is that the difference? Well, not really. If you really break it down, there's a couple other things that were glaring to me that popped in. I don't think it had anything to do with how we're playing. And so, we're knocking on the door. And I can tell you what, I'd rather be knocking on the door than be 2 houses down, which is where we were for a long time. And I think if we can just keep the mindset, block out the noise, yes, we have to be better at certain things. The year before, we were talking about the power play. Well, I think it was in the top 5 going into the playoffs. So that was a priority for us. Now it's, okay, what tweaks can we make? I don't really want to change a bunch of stuff, because I don't know what we could change to be better. Like, I'm looking at our group, I'm not sure. I believe in the way we do things, and the best thing about it is the guys in there believe it. And so we're going to be sharper. We're going to try to obviously continue to get better, but I don't think we need to change a bunch of things. And that's the hard part. Really, and that's the hard part for management, is how do you keep all these guys? Because I think we are knocking on the door, and I like where we're at.
It's been reported this is a longer deal than your previous deals. I don't know if you guys want to address that, and also, do your assistants and staff align with your contract length also?
Sort of. I'll just leave it at that. It's a multi-year deal, and we're going to be around for a while, so that's kind of just how I want to leave it, to be honest.
Yeah, Don, you got a lot of UFAs to handle over the off season. Just, do you know which ones that you'll try to re-sign and which ones will go to free agency? And also, what do you feel like the chances are re-signing Jake Gensel?
Well, I think the first part of your question is we'd like to sign them all. I mean, as Rod said, we got something good going here. We'd like to keep it going. There's this thing called the salary cap that won't allow us to do that. So, we do, actually, Rod and I have talked. We haven't sat down and really prioritized player by player. We know that we'd like to try to keep as much of our D together. We think we've got one of the best D corps in the league. So I'd like to keep them together. I know with Jake, I think he played a good role here. I know Sebastian talked about how much he liked playing with them. So, we haven't begun those talks. We'll talk to him also. But when the season ends like this, it's not something that everybody really wants to talk about. Now, in the next few days, I know I'm going to hear from all the agents, and we'll start discussing where these players where they're at and what they expect. Players play for a long time to get to this point where they become unrestricted, where they can find out what the marketplace, what's going to pay them. So we're hoping that we can nip that a little bit with a few of the guys, but certainly there's going to be guys going to unrestricted free agency, that's for sure, on July 1st.
Coming into this season, you guys had Kokanemi pegged as a 2C, and kind of started off well, but kind of trailed off. Do you believe that, we have 5 centers under contract now? Do you believe that you have the group to take the next step, a dynamic 2C, or do you believe that's an area to address in the offseason?
For you.
Well, what I would say, we both have talked about this all year long, that the depth of our center is good, but they're all left-hand shot. And Roddy's been talking about, we talked about it before the trade, we talked about during the season, trade deadline, throughout the playoffs, that we'd love to get a right-hand shot center to balance our left shots. As we know, there's just not a lot of those guys out there, and but the depth of our center ice, I think, is good. It's just if we could find one of those guys that could win faceoffs on the right side, I think that's what he would like.
Rod, maybe going back to you for a moment. I'm remembering back 6 years ago when you took the job, and you said something that was kind of humble about, we all know how taking this job ends, that coaches eventually are hired to be fired. And yet here we are 6 years later, and you're making a longer-term commitment. At some point, I'm guessing you turned the corner on the idea of making coaching in the NHL what you're going to do with the second half of your adult life. You've made a more commitment to that. Can you talk about that when you kind of thought, this is what I want to do. I want to stay at this as long as I can.
Well, it's hard to me to envision just doing this anywhere else. That's really the bottom line of this, because what I talk about, what makes it important to me is the people I'm around, and because I know their commitment and I see it. And so when I ask the players to care about what they do, your boss has to care about it. And so it's real. So if I was to go somewhere else, I don't know how I could be that same coach, because I don't have that commitment. I don't have that background. I don't have the love for the guys that I have here. So I do think that's real. So, when the opportunity to keep coaching here is an option, then that's what I'm doing. It's also the unfinished business thing. You just talked about, your question about how do you get, well, that's what the carrot is, that we still haven't won. And I also go back to my playing days when, I remember going to the finals and losing and thinking, this is it. But maybe that was the best thing that happened, because it was still that motivation at 35 to keep playing and, win. And so there's still that carrot out there for me to help this organization get to where we need to, and help these guys that are in there that all want to do it too. So I don't know if I'm answering your question, but I know it's the right fit.
Don, I know you don't negotiate with parents, but Martin Necas's dad had some comments about him wanting to be traded and maybe not being happy he wasn't on the top power play unit, all of that. Again, I know you don't deal with parents, you deal with agents and players, but what do you think of that? And, maybe his future, obviously, he's a RFA, and that's a...
Well, first, you're telling me something that I don't know, because I could care less what everybody says, and regardless if it's an agent or a parent. I love the parents, but I want to talk to the parents about their kids, not about their contract. So, we're going to deal with this one. He's an exceptionally skilled player that has a lot more to give. My own opinion, Ron might have different, but we'll figure out something with them. It's, just because I don't have enough toes and fingers to tell you how many players have walked in my office say about being traded. And, we're not opposed to always trading players, but you also got to look at the value of what you're getting back for players. And Marty's an exceptionally skilled guy that you're just not going to give up on, that's for sure. So we'll deal with it as the summer progresses. Say hi to his dad for me.
Every parent thinks their kid should be on a power play, by the way. They just don't have a microphone to announce it. So the only 5 parents that are happy are the guys that get the first crack. And they're like, hey, I love you, coach. And the rest all hate the coach because his kid's not on a power play. That's okay.
Yeah, Don, is Nikishin's status changed at all, or is he an option, or is he definitely set for the KHL next year?
It's a work in progress. We spent more time on this player, trying to get him out of Russia than anybody else. So it's still a work in progress. I'm not going to say it's dead for this next year. We're still talking with the people we need to be chatting with. So we're hoping something, one way or another, I think in the next 3-4 weeks before the draft, we'll have a good feeling whether he's coming out. The goal is obviously to know before we get to free agency, because he could be a big impact for our team. I think one way or another, we'll probably get him signed, and whether he's got a commitment to stay there or not for next year, that's what we got to work out yet.
Coach, being a father yourself, I imagine it's, you have younger players, you have older players on this team, but what is it like having to potentially say goodbye to some of these guys, and guys maybe that have been part of this core group for you for so long? Can you equate it to being kind of like a parent who's sending their kid off to college or something?
Listen, it's good and bad. I hate that I think of some of these guys as my kids, because now I realize how old I'm getting. But we definitely there's a connection there, and nobody's gone yet. So until that happens, I'm holding out hope that we can figure it all out. Don's right in that the reality of it is there's no way it's going to be able to happen. But I don't know. Like I said, I don't like thinking about things that haven't happened yet. But yeah, it's business, and we understand that. And there's going to be guys that are not going to be here that we wish we would have been able to keep.
Knowing that you do have a tough situation, you and Don, of figuring out who's on the team next year, and probably unlikely that you have every single guy back whose contract is up, is it, in your mind, going to be one of the more impossible tasks to keep the system of coaching and the style of play you have in place, knowing you might have a completely different roster next year?
Well, it kind of depends on how many guys we get to keep. But we've done a pretty good job of being able to tweak what we're doing every year based on the personnel we have, and still keep the way we want to play, our identity. And that's really the key, is playing to your identity.
Don, I guess this is for you. Is it a given that you'll have the same 3 goaltenders back next year? You've got a third guy signed. That gives you some flexibility, but Freddie's in the last year of his contract.
I don't know if anything is for a given right now. Yeah, they all have contracts, but our goal is always to try to improve at every position, and if there's something that makes sense for us there, we have to explore it. So it's just like all the other players. Everybody's got contracts. They're going to be playing someplace. Hopefully, most of them here, but it's our job to make sure that we do explore opportunities, and if there's something that we feel makes us better, then we have to look at it.
And maybe for both of you, was your view of Jake Gensel and his contributions, he's the kind of guy who makes a good Hurricane, because you do have this leverage through July 1 to negotiate?
Oh, I think so. I mean, number one, he's a great player. We don't want just good people around. We want good people that are good players, and he checked both boxes. And then he's got to want to be here. And I think, in the short time he was here, I think he enjoyed it, and enjoyed the group, enjoyed the way we do things. So that gives us hope that, maybe we can make this work.
Don, yesterday, Seth Jarvis revealed that he played most of the season with a torn labrum and torn rotator cuff. Can you just speak on how impressive it was that his game seemingly still continued to grow despite the fact that he was playing through those injuries?
A broken finger that was getting shot up every game. I can't. I mean, Roddy talked about Jarvis. I mean, you just can't say enough about this guy. Other than he does need a new contract, so I got to be careful. But he is something else. I mean, we watch how he plays. I mean, forget about his status of his size. If he's got a chance to go get that puck, it doesn't matter who's going to take him out. He's going to get it first. He just every game he just amazes me. He's got big kahunas there. So he's a guy that you want to continue to build your team around. That's for sure. With Roddy talked about him.
Yeah, I can't say much more than that. I'm not even sure you're allowed to say that. We get the point. And, he had a good year. What I like about Seth is he's getting better, and he's willing to get better, and you just see the progression. And I think there's still another level for him to get to. And so that's a real bright spot for for this organization.
I'm worried about the country of Finland this year, though. He's going to spend 2 weeks in Finland. They've never seen a Jarvis, so he's got a golf tournament, and then he's got Fishy's wedding, so Finland country might be a little different when he leaves.
Don, you guys got Kuznetsov. He's got another year. Kind of, do you see what do you see for him going forward, whether it's here or something else?
Yeah, no, I mean, he's part of the program and part of the team right now, and, you know, again, we haven't sat down and assessed every player. We've been doing exit interviews the last couple days, so Rod and I haven't spent much time talking about individual players, but, you know, he brings something to the table. He can score. I mean, I don't know what he had up to the playoffs, 3 or 4 goals. You know, his talent level, when he's got the puck, just don't panic at all. I don't worry at all when he's got the puck, 'cause his skill level is so high. So, you know, just finding the right fit for him where he fits, and, you know, let Rod get the best out of him.
We got the laundry list from Seth of what he had. Did you have anybody else that had? Everybody's playing through something at the end of the year, but anything serious? And then Seth's, he said he wasn't sure. He didn't think he would need surgery, but he's not a doctor, which we know.
That's an understatement.
That's a good thing.
That's an understatement. The only other surgery that we know for sure is Tony. He's going to have his hand. He's got a little, I don't know what it's, the bursis or something on his hand. He's going to get taken off. You know, the other guys, you know, Foss, we're still waiting. He just had more CT scans today. Get sent to New York and find out more about that. And, you know, Pesci's going to heal in time, and that should be about it.
And then I spoke to you a little bit about the Chicago situation. Can you give us a better overview of how that relationship works now? I'm assuming you can install a coaching staff there, and if you've made any movement on that front about, you know, who you want there, what you want to put there.
Yeah, so the deal we made is Chicago ownership. They run the business, the franchise, and we run all hockey department. You know, coaches, trainers, equipment, everybody works for us. So that's a big change there. And we started to talk to some coaches. Actually, Darren York, our assistant GM, is leading the charge in that. He's talked to some guys. We'll get it down to, like we did before, to a small group, and then Rod and I will jump into it. And, you know, so things are happening, but, you know, don't look for anything to happen like the next few days.
Coach, going back to the end of the season, you went to Freddie a lot for the playoffs. In your mind, is he still the number one guy, the guy that gives you the best chance to win going into next year? I mean, especially the thing that popped off to me was Piotr had that unbelievable game against the Rangers, and you went right back to Freddie.
Yeah. I think everything on the table for next year. I mean, both those guys will come back. I mean, either way, you know, I envision those guys splitting time like we had, because that obviously worked for both of them. But I can't tell you who I'd say is ahead of the other. But we definitely have a lot of faith in Peter coming in and taking that next step. Like, I think he's shown that he certainly has potential.
Don, I was thinking back to the availability you had before the Rangers series. You were talking about Svechnikov, and you said he's so different in terms of a power forward. Someone is different from a lot of your other forwards. Is that something you think this group maybe needs something more of, like another more, I guess, presence like that in that regard, the way you described Svechnikov?
Well, I think, you know, you always are looking for players that play that kind of role. There's very few players that play with that kind of skill level. You know, you can, you know, you get in the playoffs and your role players are tough guys. They just don't play. There's no place for them to play in your lineup. So you bring in bigger bodies that you got to make sure they can play and be in your lineup. And, you know, like I said, Andre's a different cast because of everything he does. But certainly, you know, if there's something that makes sense and can fit in our, you know, group that can help us win games. That's what it's about. It's about winning hockey games, not just being about physical. So it's something that we certainly would look at.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.